The massive chamber stretched out before Commander Taeyong Kim like an arena built for giants. 12 towering seats circled the central platform where he stood, each occupied by a representative of the ancient species that ruled the galaxy. Their eyes, whether compound, crystalline, or reptilian, looked down at him with barely concealed contempt. Taeyong had worn his dress uniform today. The dark blue fabric with golden earth insignias felt heavy on his shoulders. He had served in the Earth's Defense Force for 30 years, fought pirates in the asteroid belt, and negotiated mining rights with alien corporations. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. High Arbiter Quellen, being made of living crystal that refracted light into rainbow patterns, spoke first. His voice resonated through the chamber like wind chimes. Commander Kim, the Galactic Council, has reached a decision regarding Earth's status in the civilized galaxy. Taeyong kept his face neutral. He knew what was coming. The whispers had started weeks ago in the diplomatic quarters. Earth was too young, too aggressive, too unpredictable. The Council feared what humanity might become. Councillor Varoth rose from his seat. The Sokoth leader was a massive reptilian creature, his scales the color of dried blood. When he spoke, his forked tongue flickered between razor teeth. For 47 years, we have tolerated your presence in our galaxy. We allowed your kind to join our trading networks, to learn our technologies, to pretend you belong among civilized species. The words stung, but Taeyong remained silent. Protocol demanded he let them speak first. Your species has proven what we suspected from the beginning, Vareth continued. Humans are dangerous, unpredictable. You multiply too quickly. You consume resources without thought. You question traditions that have kept peace for millennia. You are children playing with weapons you do not understand. Ambassador Ji-Ho Park sat in the visitor section behind Taeyong. The older diplomat's hands gripped the armrests of his chair. Ji-Ho had spent 20 years building relationships with Council species, believing that patience and diplomacy would eventually earn humanity's respect. His face now showed the pain of watching that dream die. High Arbiter Quellen raised one crystalline hand. The Council has voted. Earth will surrender administrative control of the Sol System's asteroid belt to Council oversight. You will accept a garrison of Council peacekeepers in orbit around your homeworld. Your military expansion will be limited to defensive forces only. Earth's voting council matters will become advisory rather than binding. Achan felt his blood turn cold. They were asking Earth to become a vassal state, a pet civilization kept on a leash. And if Earth refuses these terms... His voice came out steady despite the rage building in his chest. Vroth's laugh was a harsh hiss. Then Earth will face economic sanctions. No Council species will trade with you. Your colonies will be isolated. Your ships will be turned away from every civilized port in the galaxy. He leaned forward. And if you resist further, we will remind you why the Council has ruled for 10,000 years. It was a threat of military action, thinly veiled, but unmistakable. Taeyong looked at each council member in turn. Most avoided his gaze. A few looked almost sympathetic. But when the vote was called, the result was clear. 11 species voted to enforce the ultimatum. Only the insectoid Chither abstained, and that was because they did not care either way. But you have 30 standard days to deliver Earth's acceptance. High Arbiter, Quellen said. We expect full compliance. The Council has spoken. The session ended. Taeyong walked through the corridors of the orbital station in silence. Ji-Ho caught up with him near the human quarters. We have to accept, Ji-Ho said quietly. We cannot fight the entire galaxy. Think about Earth. Think about our colonies. Billions of lives depend on what you recommend to the Defense Council. Taeyong stopped at a viewing port. Outside, Council warships patrolled in perfect formation. Massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets, carrier vessels that held thousands of fighters, the military might of 12 ancient civilizations. They never intended to treat us as equals, Taeyong said. We were always going to be their servants or their enemies. There is no middle ground. Then we choose survival, Ji-Ho pleaded. We swallow our pride and live to fight another day. In 100 years, maybe 200, we will be strong enough to In 100 years, we will have forgotten what freedom feels like. Taeyong turned to face the ambassador. Our children will grow up believing that humanity's place is to kneel. Is that what you want? Jiho had no answer. Back in his quarters, Taeyong activated his secure communication terminal. The quantum encrypted channel took a moment to establish a connection with Earth. When the screen cleared, Admiral Hyjinbeek's face appeared. The Supreme Commander of Earth's military looked tired. She had been expecting this call. It went as badly as we feared. She asked, "Worse. They want everything. Our freedom, our resources, our dignity." Tichang pulled the data chip containing the Council's ultimatum from his pocket. They think we are weak. They think we will surrender. Hyjin was quiet for a moment. In the background, Tiang could see the bustle of the command center beneath Seoul. Officers moved between holographic displays. Combat reports flickered across screens. Earth had been preparing for this day. President is waiting for your recommendation, Hyjin said. Jiho sent his report already. He wants us to accept the terms. Taehung looked at the data chip in his hand. 30 days to surrender everything humanity had built among the stars. 30 days to choose between freedom and safety. Tell the president that Earth does not kneel, Taeyong said, and tell Dr. Choi to activate Project Thunderfall. Hyjin's expression did not change, but her eyes showed a flash of something. Fear? Excitement? Perhaps both. Are you certain? Once we start this, there is no going back. The Council will come for us with everything they have. They were always going to come for us, Taeyong replied. Better we face them on our feet than on our knees. The transmission ended. Taeyong crushed the data chip in his hand, the plastic casing cracking under the pressure. He walked back to the viewing port and watched the Council warships drift through the void. They looked so powerful, so eternal, they had no idea what was coming. In hidden facilities across the Sol system, encrypted signals began arriving. Military bases that did not appear on any official registry powered up their reactors. Weapons that the Council did not know existed came online. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields for 15 years dropped there. Stealth fields. Earth had been waiting for this moment. Humanity had learned long ago that in a universe of predators, only the strong survived. The Council was about to discover that the species they dismissed as primitive children had teeth, and those teeth were very sharp. Dr. Hannah Choi stood in the underground laboratory 5 kilometers beneath Seoul. The facility did not exist on any public map. The elevators that brought visitors here required biometric scans, quantum encryption keys, and authorization from 3 separate military branches. Even most government officials did not know. This place was real. The laboratory stretched out like a cathedral dedicated to war. Holographic displays showed weapon schematics that glowed blue in the darkness. Test chambers held devices that bent the laws of physics in ways the Galactic Council claimed were impossible. And in the center of it all stood the fruit of 15 years of secret work. Tell me we are ready, Admiral Hyjin said. She had arrived an hour ago via military shuttle. The president was waiting for her report. Hannah looked at the woman who commanded Earth's entire military force. Hyjin was 53 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and scars from the colony wars that had ended 10 years ago. She was not a scientist. She did not pretend to understand the quantum mathematics that made Project Thunderfall possible. But she understood war. We are ready, Hannah said. But Admiral, once we use these weapons, everything changes. The Council will know we have been lying to them for over a decade. They forced our hand. Hyjin walked to one of the displays showing a sleek warship design. Tell me about our capabilities. No technical language. Pretend I'm 5 years old. Hannah allowed herself a small smile. She pulled up a comparison chart. On one side was a Council dreadnought. On the other was humanity's answer. The Council builds big ships, very big. Their dreadnoughts massed 5 million tons and carry enough firepower to destroy a city from orbit. Their shields can absorb nuclear weapons. Their armor is 3 meters of crystallized alloy that can survive direct impacts from kinetic projectiles. And our ships? The Ed's indomitable mass is only 800,000 tons. It carries a crew of 400 instead of 5,000. To a Council admiral, It would look like a light cruiser. Something you send to patrol trade routes, not fight a war. Hyjin frowned. Then how do we fight them? Hannah changed the display. The human warship rotated, and red lines highlighted its key systems. We cannot match their size or their raw power, so we do not try. Instead, we built ships that do things the Council thinks are impossible. Our engines fold space-time in ways their sensors cannot track. We can jump to faster-than-light speeds inside a gravity well. We can appear inside their defensive perimeters. That is how we surprise them. But how do we hurt them? Gravity weapons. Hannah pulled up a test video. It showed a Council cruiser analog built by human engineers for testing purposes. The ship floated in space, shields active. Then the image distorted. The cruiser seemed to implode, crumpling like paper crushed by an invisible hand. Council shields stop energy weapons and physical projectiles. But shields cannot stop gravity. Our weapons create localized gravity wells that crush ships from the inside. Their shields are useless. Hyjin watched the video replay 3 times. How many ships do we have? 8 of the Indomitable class, 72 destroyer-class vessels, 347 fighters equipped with gravity pulse weapons, and 200 automated defense platforms hidden throughout the Sol system. The Admiral was quiet. Hannah knew what she was thinking. 8 capital ships against thousands. It was not a war Earth could win through simple force of numbers. We also have the Nanite Network, Hannah continued. For the past 30 years, every human exploration ship that went into Council space carried a secret cargo. Millions of nanite fabricator seeds, each smaller than a grain of sand. We hid them in asteroids, in comets, in debris fields. They have been floating dormant in every major Council system. And if we activate them, within 72 hours, those seeds will begin converting raw materials into weapons platforms. The Council will wake up to find human weapons in their home systems. It is a first-strike deterrent. Mutually assured destruction on a galactic scale. Hyjin closed her eyes. That is why you look so troubled. We become the very threat the Council fears. Yes, Hannah turned away from the display. I became a physicist because I wanted to understand the universe. I never wanted to build planet killers. But here we are. The sound of boots on metal echoed through the laboratory. Colonel Min Ho Kong strode toward them, his flight suit marking him as the commander of the Indomitable. He was young for his rank, only 37, with a cockiness that came from being the best pilot in Earth's fleet. Admiral, the Indomitable is ready for combat operations. My crew is aboard and all systems are green, he nodded to Hannah. Arthur, your weapons work beautifully. We ran a live-fire test against an old mining station in the outer belt. The gravity cannon turned it into a cube of compressed metal in 4 seconds. Any problems with the prototype systems? Hannah asked. The quantum drive is sensitive. We had some fluctuations during the last jump test. But Chief Engineer Dae-yoon says he can compensate. Otherwise, we are ready to show the Council what humanity can do. A communications officer approached. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from Ambassador Jiho. He is requesting an immediate conference. The holographic display changed to show Jiho's face. The ambassador looked older than he had a week ago. Stress lined his features. Admiral Beak, I am begging you to reconsider this course of action. I have been negotiating with sympathetic Council members. Councillor Yisa, of the Threneth, believes she can convince others to modify the ultimatum. Give me time. Give me a chance to save us through diplomacy. Jin's voice was hard. What modification is she offering? Earth would maintain sovereignty over our home system. The Council would only require approval for military vessels entering Council space. We would accept advisors rather than occupation forces. It is not perfect, but it is better than war. It is still surrender, Colonel Minho said. They still control our future, and war gives us control. Jiho's voice rose. War gets millions of humans killed. War turns every Council species against us permanently. We cannot win. Even if we bloody their nose, they will grind us down eventually. There are billions of them, and only 10 billion of us. Hannah watched Hyjin's face. The Admiral was considering it. For a moment, she looked like she might agree. Then a new transmission arrived. Captain Unili's voice came through the speakers. She was aboard her fighter in the Sol System's outer defense perimeter. Command, we have contacts. 3 Council heavy cruisers just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. They are broadcasting a message on all frequencies. They say they are here to secure the asteroid belt in accordance with the Council ultimatum. They say if we resist, they will fire on any Earth vessel that approaches. The laboratory went silent. Everyone looked at the Admiral. It came early, Hyjin said quietly. The 30 days were a lie. They planned to occupy us regardless of our answer. Jiho's face on the screen showed shock. Admiral, this must be a misunderstanding. Let me contact Counselor Yusa. The time for diplomacy is over, Ambassador. Hyjin turned to Colonel Minho. Get to your ship. Prepare to execute Operation Opening Move, yes, Admiral. Minho saluted and ran for the elevator. Hyjin looked at Hannah. Can we win, Doctor? Hannah thought about all the simulations, all the test data. All the nights she spent awake wondering if her creations would defend Earth or doom it. I do not know. But I know we can make them regret underestimating us. That will have to be enough. Hyjin activated the facility-wide intercom. All units, this is Supreme Command. Execute Project Thunderfall. Authorization code Delta Omega 7. Earth's Defense Force is now at full combat readiness. May humanity survive what comes next. Across the Sol System, humanity's hidden arsenal came to life. The war had begun. The bridge of the EDS Indomitable hummed with controlled energy. Colonel Minho Kong sat in the command chair, watching his crew work with practiced efficiency. The view screen showed the 3 Council cruisers hanging at the edge of the Sol System like wolves waiting to pounce. Status report, Minho said. Lieutenant Seojin Park looked up from the tactical station. The young officer had graduated top of his class from the academy, but this was his first real combat situation. Council vessels are maintaining position. They have powered weapons, but shields are at standard patrol strength. They do not think we are a threat. Their mistake. Minho smiled. Helm, how long until we can jump? Quantum drive is charged and stable. We can fold space on your command. Minho opened a channel to the other 7 ships in his battle group. Each Indomitable class warship hung in different positions around Earth's orbital space. To any observer, they looked like they were running, scattering to avoid confrontation. All ships, this is Indomitable Actual. Remember the plan. We jump together. We strike together. We jump out together. No heroes, no unnecessary risks. The Admiral wants to send a message, not lose ships. Acknowledge. 7 captains confirmed. Minho took a deep breath. This was it. The moment humanity stopped being victims and became warriors. Execute. Target coordinates, Council cruiser formation, inner perimeter. The universe twisted. Minho felt the familiar sensation of space folding around the ship. In normal FTL travel, ships had to jump from outside gravity wells. The Council's technology could not handle the gravitational stress of a planet or star, but humanity had learned different mathematics. 3 seconds later, the Indomitable dropped back into normal space, 2,000 kilometers from the nearest Council cruiser. Close enough that the alien ship filled half the view screen. Close enough that their shields overlapped. Alarms blared on the Council vessel. They never saw the human ships coming. Gravity cannons, fire, Minho ordered. The Indomitable's main weapons unleashed hell. Invisible waves of gravitational force rippled across space. The Council cruiser's shields flickered, but did not stop the attack. Nothing could stop gravity. Metal screamed as the cruiser's hull began to compress. Internal bulkheads collapsed. Reactor containment failed. In 15 seconds, a warship that had patrolled Council space for 2 centuries became a crumpled ball of wreckage. The other 7 human ships appeared around the remaining cruisers. Energy weapons would have taken minutes to penetrate Council shields. Gravity weapons took seconds. Targets destroyed, Seojin reported. His voice shook slightly. No survivors detected. The bridge was silent. They had trained for this. Run 1,000 simulations. But simulation did not prepare you for the reality of killing thousands of living beings. Send the data burst to Council Command, Minho said quietly. Let them see what happened here. Let them understand. Light years away, at the Kepler outpost, Admiral Hyjin executed the next phase. The outpost was a massive military base that controlled Council forces in this entire sector. 50 warships were docked there. 10,000 military personnel worked in its facilities. It was supposed to be impregnable. Captain Yuna Lee led her squadron of 30 fighters through the outpost's defensive perimeter. She flew with the precision of someone who had spent 10,000 hours in a cockpit. The Council's automated defenses tried to lock onto her fighter, but the quantum probability drive made targeting impossible. Her ship existed in multiple possible locations simultaneously until she chose to collapse the wave function. All fighters, weapons free. Hit the docking clamps and power generators. Disable, do not destroy. We are not murderers. Her squadron split up. Gravity pulse weapons fired in rapid sequence. Each pulse was weaker than the cannons on the Indomitable, but concentrated on small targets, they were devastating. Docking clamps shattered. Power conduits ruptured. Communication arrays exploded. The entire attack took 14 minutes. By the time Council forces understood what was happening, it was over. The Kepler outpost was crippled, its warships unable to launch, systems dead in the void. Why? UNA pulled her fighter away from the chaos. She had not killed anyone today. The targeted strikes had been surgical. But she knew the war would not stay clean for long. Command, this is Yuna. Kepler outpost is neutralized. Jumping back to Sol Space, Admiral Hyjin watched the reports come in from her command center. The opening strikes had worked perfectly. Earth had destroyed 3 cruisers and disabled a major military base. The Council's military forces in this region were in chaos, but this was only the beginning. Hyjin pulled up a star map showing Council space. Hundreds of systems. Thousands of warships. Billions of soldiers. Earth had won the first battle. Winning the war would be something else entirely. Dr. Hannah stood next to her, watching the casualty reports. The cruisers had crews of 2,000 each, 6,000 dead. Their families will want revenge. The Council should have thought about that before threatening Earth, Hyjin said. But her voice carried no triumph. Only tired acceptance of what was necessary. On the Council homeworld, Councillor Veroth raged in the emergency session. His claws scarred the stone table before him. This is an act of war. The humans have murdered our people. I demand immediate retaliation. Send the full fleet. Turn their world to ash. High Arbiter Quellen's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. Calm yourself, Counselor. We need to understand what happened. How did human ships appear inside our defensive perimeters? How did they penetrate shields that have protected Council vessels for millennia? It does not matter how. Veroth slammed his fist down. What matters is that they dared to strike us. We are the Galactic Council. We rule this galaxy. If we do not respond with overwhelming force, every primitive species will think they can challenge us. Counselor Yisa spoke softly. Perhaps we pushed too hard. Earth only defended itself against occupation. We voted to take their sovereignty. They simply refused. Refused? Veroth turned on her. They did not refuse. They attacked. They killed our people. And you want to negotiate? I want to understand what we are facing, Yisa said. 3 cruisers destroyed in seconds. Kepler outpost disabled in minutes. These humans have technology we have never seen. If we attack blindly, we may lose more than ships. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Quellen made the decision. We will mobilize the Grand Fleet, but first we observe. We learn. We send reconnaissance drones to study these human weapons. Knowledge is power. Veroth was not satisfied, but he bowed to the Arbiter's decision. For now, back on the Indomitable, Minho received new orders. The battle group was not returning to Earth. They were advancing deeper into Council space, heading for strategic targets. Hit-and-run attacks to keep the Council off balance, Siajin approached him. Sir, the crew is asking questions. We won a great victory today. Why are we not celebrating? Minho looked at the young officer. Because this is not a victory, Lieutenant. This is the opening move of a war we cannot win through force alone. Every council ship we destroy makes them angrier. Every base we hit makes them more determined. We are not trying to conquer them. We are trying to make the cost of conquering us too high to accept. So we just keep fighting until they give up. We keep fighting until they respect us. Until they see us as equals rather than primitives to be controlled. That is the only victory that matters. The Indomitable jumped back into FTL, vanishing into the darkness between stars. Behind it, the wreckage of council ships drifted in the void. The message was sent. The question was whether the council would listen. On Earth, civilians watched the news broadcasts showing their military's victories. Some celebrated. Others worried. Everyone understood that life had changed forever. Humanity was no longer hiding among the stars. They had stepped onto the galactic stage, and they had done so covered in the blood of their enemies. There was no going back now. Grand Admiral Corvin not commanded a fleet in 3,000 years. He had been enjoying his retirement on a peaceful world where the oceans sang and the twin suns painted the sky purple. Then the council summoned him, and retirement ended. He stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Justice, watching 2,000 warships assemble in formation. This was the Grand Fleet, pulled from every corner of council space. 12 species contributing their finest vessels. 50,000 crew members ready to defend the council's authority, and they were all going to fight 8 human ships. Corvin was old enough to remember the last time the council faced a serious military threat. That had been 3,000 years ago, against a machine intelligence that consumed entire solar systems. The council won, but barely. Since then, there had been peace. Uninterrupted, comfortable peace. Peace made civilizations weak. Admiral, all ships report ready, his second-in-command reported. We can jump to the threshold system on your order. Corvin studied the strategic display. The threshold system was a natural choke point between Council Core territory and the outer regions where Earth lay. If the humans wanted to strike deeper into Council space, they had to go through threshold, and Corvin would be waiting. Execute jump. Formation Delta Sivan. I want overlapping shields and interlocking fields of fire. The humans have shown they can appear inside defensive perimeters. We will not give them any openings. The Grand Fleet jumped. 2,000 ships moving as one, their combined mass enough to disturb space-time itself. When they emerged at threshold, they formed a wall of steel and energy that stretched across the system. Corvin smiled. Let them come. Let them see what real power looks like. He did not have to wait long. Sensors detected 8 contacts emerging from FTL at the system's edge. The human battle group had arrived. On the Indomitable, Colonel Minho stared at the sensor readings. 2,000 ships. They brought everyone. Lieutenant Seojin's hands shook as he worked the tactical console. Sir, we are outnumbered 250 to 1. Our battle plan assumed 50 ships at most. This is impossible, Minho finished. Yes, that is the point. They want to crush us completely. Show the galaxy what happens when you challenge the Council. He opened the fleet channel. All ships, this is Minho. I will not lie to you. We are looking at odds no sane commander would accept. If anyone wants to jump out, I will not blame them.
Silence.
Then, one by one, 7 captains responded. They were staying. They were fighting. And let us make this interesting, Minho said. Activate Plan Omega, light years away. Captain Junho Nam floated in the cockpit of his stealth reconnaissance ship. His vessel was invisible to Council's sensors, hidden in the shadow of a dead moon orbiting the Council capital world. He had been here for 3 weeks, waiting. His console beeped. The activation code from Admiral Hedgen. Plan Omega was go. Here we go, Junho whispered. He launched a package of specialized nanites toward the planet below. The package was tiny, no larger than a grain of sand. It would take 6 hours to reach the surface. But once it did, it would infiltrate the quantum relay network that coordinated all Council military forces. The relay network was ancient technology. Built 5,000 years ago when the Council first formed, unbreakable encryption, impossible to hack from outside. But Junho's nanites were not hacking from outside. They were becoming part of the system itself. At Threshold, the battle began. The Council fleet opened fire with everything they had: energy beams that could boil oceans, missile swarms that blacked out the stars, kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The human ships scattered. They could not fight this fleet head-on. They could not win this battle, so they did not try. The Indomitable jumped. Not away from the fight, but into it. The ship appeared in the middle of the Council formation, shields overlapping with 3 Council dreadnoughts. Gravity cannons fired at point-blank range. The 3 dreadnoughts crumpled like paper. But the Indomitable took damage too. Council ships were slower than human vessels, but their weapons still hurt. Energy beams scarred the human ship's hull. Shields buckled under the assault. Hull breach on Deck 7. Seojin shouted, "Shield generators failing. We need to jump out." "Not yet." Minho fought the controls as the ship shuddered. "Target their command ship. If we can kill Corvin, the fleet loses coordination." The eternal justice loomed ahead. Corvin saw the human ship coming. For the first time in 3,000 years, he felt fear. The humans were not running. They were going for his throat. All weapons. Fire on that ship. Bring it down. 50 Council vessels concentrated fire on the Indomitable. The human ship's shields failed completely. Armor plating melted. Internal explosions rocked the vessel. "We're done," Seojin yelled. "Jump drive is offline." "We cannot." The explosion threw Minho from his chair. Darkness swallowed the bridge. When he awoke, emergency lighting painted everything red. Medical officers worked frantically on wounded crew members. Seojin was alive, blood running down his face from a head wound. The ship was dead in space, drifting. "Damage report," Minho said weakly. "You're drifting toward the Council fleet. Weapons offline. Shields offline. Engines offline." "We are dead, sir." Minho laughed bitterly. They had hurt the Council, but not enough. Corvin's ship was damaged but functional. The Grand Fleet was battered but intact. And the Indomitable was dying. Then something changed. Across the battle space, Council ships began losing power. Their shields flickered and died. Their weapons stopped firing. Their coordination collapsed into chaos. JUNHO's single quotes and snates had reached the quantum relay network. The system that let 2,000 ships act as one was now feeding false data, telling each ship that every other ship was an enemy, overloading targeting computers with contradictory information, creating phantom contacts that did not exist. The Grand Fleet tore self apart, trying to respond to threats that were not real. Admiral Hyjin watched from her command center as the plan unfolded. The Indomitable had sacrificed itself to buy Junho time. The other 7 human ships had scattered the Council formation, forcing them to spread out. And now, with their coordination gone, the Council fleet was vulnerable. All remaining ships execute swarm protocol. Hit them hard while they are blind. 7 human warships appeared in multiple locations simultaneously. They attacked in small groups, isolating Council vessels that could not call for help. The tables turned. The hunters became prey. Corvin watched his fleet crumble. 3,000 years of military experience meant nothing when his ships could not talk to each other. When his sensors showed false information, when every order he gave was delayed or corrupted, retreat. He ordered. All ships jumped to emergency rally points. The Grand Fleet scattered. Ships jumped blindly, many arriving at wrong coordinates. Some collided during FTL transit. Others jumped into asteroid fields or too close to stars. The coordinated military force became a mob running in panic. The Battle of Threshold was over. The Council had lost, but the cost was terrible. The Indomitable was destroyed. 3 other human ships were heavily damaged. Hundreds of crew members were dead or wounded. And Colonel Minho drifted unconscious in his dying ship. Yuna led the rescue mission. Her fighter squad attached tow cables to the Indomitable and pulled it away from the battlefield. Medical ships arrived to evacuate the survivors. Minho was alive, barely. The doctors said he would recover. Eventually, on the Council homeworld, Counselor Vareth did not wait for permission. He had watched the Grand Fleet fail. He had seen human weapons humiliate Council forces. He had heard enough debates and careful planning. In secret facilities, beneath the Council's most secure base, there existed a weapon. It had been built 5,000 years ago during the Machine Wars, a planet killer, a doomsday device. The Council had voted to destroy it after the war ended, but some Council members kept it, just in case. Vareth accessed the facility and gave the order. The weapon was loaded onto a massive carrier vessel. 300 loyal Sokoth warships formed an escort. They jumped toward the Sol system. Earth had 72 hours before its sun was turned into a weapon against them. And Vrath's secret movement had only one goal. Kill every human in the galaxy, Captain. Genho's stealth ship detected the anomaly 3 days after the Battle of Threshold. His sensors picked up massive gravitational distortions moving through Council space. Something huge was traveling toward the Sol system. Escorted by hundreds of warships, he risked breaking communication. Silence to send an encrypted burst to Earth, then he followed the fleet. Staying hidden in their sensor shadow, what he saw made his blood run cold. The carrier vessel was the size of a small moon, and the energy readings coming from its cargo bay matched only one thing in the database. A planet-killer weapon from the old wars, the kind of weapon the Council claimed had been destroyed centuries ago in the command center beneath Sol. Admiral Hyjin stared at the tactical display. The weapon would reach Earth in 72 hours. The human fleet was scattered, damaged, and exhausted from the Battle of Threshold. They could not stop 300 fresh Council ships plus that massive carrier. Dr. Hannah entered the room. She had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red. Her hands shook from too much caffeine. I saw the reports. They are bringing a planet killer. How do we stop something like that? We cannot, Hyjin said simply. Not with conventional forces. Even our gravity weapons cannot destroy something that large before it reaches firing range. She turned to Hannah. Tell me about the nanite network. The one we seeded across Council space? How fast can it activate? Hannah's face went pale. You want to activate it now? But that would. Admiral, that would give us strike capability against every major Council world. That makes us the aggressor. That makes us the threat the Council always said we were. They are bringing a weapon to destroy Earth. They are already trying to exterminate us. What choice do we have? We could evacuate. The colony ships could save millions. We could preserve humanity even if Earth dies. Hyjin shook her head. And go where? Live as refugees? Hunted across the galaxy. No. If Earth dies, then we make sure the Council understands the cost. We make them face mutually assured destruction. Maybe that stops them. Maybe it does not. But we do not die quietly. The order went out. Across Council space, in 1,000 different systems, nanite seeds activated. They began consuming asteroids, converting raw materials into weapons platforms. The process would take 72 hours. The same amount of time the planet killer needed to reach Earth. It was a race. And humanity had just bet everything on the Council blinking first. Counselor Vareth did not know about the nanite activation. His fleet continued toward Earth, confident in their mission. The planet killer charged its systems, drawing power from the carrier's massive reactors. In 48 hours, they would arrive. In 49 hours, Earth's sun would go nova, consuming every human world in the system. But High Arbiter Quellen learned of the nanites. His intelligence network detected the activation signals. Council scientists analyzed the emerging weapons platforms. They realized what Earth had done. Quellen called an emergency session. All 12 Council members assembled, though several appeared only as holograms. The news had spread. The galaxy watched. Humanity has revealed a hidden weapons network, Quellen said. In 48 hours, they will have strike capability against Sokoth Prime, Threneth Major, Crystalline Home, and 8 other Council core worlds. They can destroy our civilizations as easily as we plan to destroy theirs. Counselor Yusa spoke urgently. Then we must recall Vratha's fleet immediately. This has escalated beyond reason. Vrathaeus is not responding to our communications, another counselor said. He has gone rogue. He will complete his mission, regardless of orders. Vratha's hologram appeared in the chamber. His eyes burned with fanatic intensity. I will not stop. Earth must die. They humiliated us. They killed our people. They challenged our authority. If we do not destroy them completely, the council is finished. Every primitive species will think they can rebel. And if you destroy Earth, humanity will activate their weapon network, Yisa argued. Billions will die on both sides. How does that serve the council? Fear, Vraith said simply. Let the galaxy see what happens to species that challenge us. Let them burn. Let our worlds burn. Let everything burn. But at the end, the council survives, and Earth does not. He cut the transmission. Quellen understood. Varith had gone mad with rage and pride. He would rather see the galaxy in flames than admit humanity deserved respect. Captain Yuna led the desperate mission to stop the planet killer. She took every operational fighter humanity had left. 212 pilots, many flying damaged ships held together by prayers and duct tape. They jumped into the path of Vreth's fleet. 200 fighters against 3 Hun. Dread warships. The odds were worse than threshold. All pilots, this is Yuna. We cannot win this fight. We are not trying to. Our job is to slow them down. Every minute we delay is another minute for diplomacy to work. For the Council to see reason. For Earth to complete the nanite network. So we fight. We make every second cost them. The fighters screamed into battle. Human pilots flew like demons, their small craft dancing between the massive Council warships. Gravity pulse weapons struck at engines and weapon systems. Fighters dove through point defense, fire that filled space with death. Yuna destroyed 2 escort cruisers before her shields failed. A Sokoth destroyer locked onto her fighter. She jinked left, then right, but the destroyer's guns tracked her movements. She was out of options. Then the destroyer exploded, not from her weapons, from inside. Its reactor went critical, tearing the ship apart from within. Across the battlefield, Council ships began suffering catastrophic failures. Power systems overloaded. Life support collapsed. Weapons fired randomly at their own fleet. Junho's nanites, the same ones that corrupted the Grand Fleet's communication network. He had uploaded them into Vroth's fleet when he followed them through Council space. Now they activated, turning the Council's own ships against them. All fighters press the attack, Yuna shouted. Their systems are failing, but the carrier kept coming. The planet killer was independent of the carrier's main systems. It had its own power, its own guidance. Even with the fleet in chaos, the weapon would complete its mission. Back on Earth, Dr. Hannah made a decision. She accessed the nanite network controls. Her hands hovered over the activation command. One button press, and weapons platforms across Council space would go active. Billions of lives hung on her choice. I did not become a scientist to commit genocide, she whispered. Then she pressed a different button. Not full activation. Partial deployment. The nanites began building platforms, but did not arm them. She sent one message to the Galactic Council. We have a gun to your head, but we are not pulling the trigger. Not yet. Stop, Vrath. Prove you are better than he is. Quellen received the message. He understood the gift humanity had given. They showed mercy when they could have chosen revenge. He made his own choice. The High Arbiter used his emergency authority to activate a failsafe built into all Council military vessels. Every ship carried a remote override. Installed 5,000 years ago to prevent exactly this kind of rogue action, Quellen activated it. Vratha's fleet shut down. Every ship went dark, engines dead, weapons offline. Including the carrier, the planet killer drifted powerless in space. Its systems disabled 3 million kilometers from Earth. Yuna's fighters surrounded it. Weapons armed, ready to destroy it if it activated, but it never did. The threat ended. Counselor Wraith screamed in impotent rage aboard his flagship. You have doomed us all. Without Earth's destruction, the Council is finished. They will never fear us again. Quellen's response was cold. You are under arrest for unauthorized use of forbidden weapons and attempting genocide against a Council member species. The era of ruling through fear is over. 6 months later, Commander Taeyong stood before the Galactic Council once more. But this time, he stood as Earth's full ambassador, not a junior member begging for scraps. The chamber had changed. New seats had been added for younger species. The old hierarchy was being dismantled. The Treaty of Terra recognizes Earth's full sovereignty, Quellen said. Humanity will receive equal voting rights in all Council matters. The Sol System's resources remain under human control. And in recognition of humanity's restraint during the crisis, Earth will join the Security Council with veto power over military actions. Counselor Yisa smiled. Welcome, Ambassador. Truly welcome, Taeyong bowed. Earth does not seek dominance. We never wanted war. We wanted only what every species deserves, the freedom to determine our own future, to stand as equals, to be respected for what we are, not punished for what you feared we might become. The treaty was signed. Humanity had one, not through conquest, but through the courage to stand up and the wisdom to show mercy. On Earth, people danced, cried, and held each other. They had survived. Their world was safe. Their freedom was secured. Dr. Hannah stood in her laboratory, deactivating the nanite network. The weapons platforms across Council space began breaking down, returning to inert matter. She had built the ultimate weapon, and she had chosen not to use it. That choice defined humanity more than any military victory. Captain Yuna returned home to a hero's welcome. But she remembered the pilots who did not come back. 47 fighters lost in the final battle. 47 names she would carry forever. Colonel Minho recovered in a hospital, his body healing slowly. He received the Star of Terra, Earth's highest military honor. When reporters asked if he would fight again if needed, he smiled. I hope I never have to. But if Earth is threatened, yes, always. 10 years passed. Earth built, not warships, but exploration vessels. Humanity spread across the stars, but this time as friends rather than conquerors. 3 new species joined the Galactic Council, specifically requesting Earth as their sponsor. The galaxy changed. The old Council's rigid hierarchy gave way to something better, a federation of equals, where species stood or fell on merit rather than tradition. Commander Taeyong. Now, Senior Counselor Taeyong addressed the new generation of council members, young species who had never known the old ways. The council was built on the belief that power determined worth, that ancient species deserved to rule simply because they were ancient. Earth taught a different lesson, that innovation matters more than tradition, that courage is worth more than size, that the willingness to fight for freedom is worth more than 1,000 years of inherited authority. He paused, looking at the faces around him. Some were human, many were not. All listened with respect. We did not ask to fight the council. We would have preferred peace. But when peace meant surrender, we chose to stand. We showed the galaxy that even the smallest species can defend its dignity, that power without justice is tyranny, and that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use the weapons you possess. The session ended. Taeyang walked to the viewing port, looking out at the stars. Ships from 100 species traveled between worlds, trading, exploring, building a future. Together, Earth had struck back when cornered. The Galactic Council had been stunned by humanity's power. But what changed the galaxy was not the power itself. It was what humans chose to do with it. They chose to build rather than destroy, to forgive rather than revenge, to extend hands in friendship to the same species that had threatened them. That was humanity's true strength. Not gravity weapons or nanite swarms, but the choice to remain human, even when it would be easier to become monsters. The galaxy was better for it. And Earth, the little blue world that refused to kneel, had earned its place among the stars.